In this video, we will walk you through how to use Fundraising KIT to identify who your potential recurring donors are and how to build a recurring donor prospect list. Let's start with a bit of inspiration. Did you know that recurring donors give 42% more in 1 year than those who give one-time gifts? And also, there's an 80% first-year retention rate for donors who give through monthly giving programs. Lastly, it's 10 to 20% cheaper to retain existing donors than acquire new donors. With that said, if you haven't yet invested in a recurring donor appeal, this might be the time. So how can KIT help you figure out who in your database has the potential to become a recurring donor? Here are the top 6 indicators KIT has found are indicative of someone becoming a recurring donor. Where did these indicators come from? Well, KIT passed thousands of data points from real and diversified nonprofit data through machine learning models. These models identified which behavioral patterns lead to someone becoming a recurring donor. The top indicators for someone becoming a recurring donor are average donation amount, payment method, the number of donations from each donor, payment day of the week, interaction types between your organization and the donor, as well as the total number of interactions with each donor. Keep in mind that when your data is entered into KIT, the models run on your unique data. So we'll be looking at behavioral patterns amongst your existing recurring donors to determine indicators. Your indicators might reflect some of the indicators you see here, or you might have a few different indicators. Now with these indicators, KIT is going to produce a list of donors who have the potential to become a recurring donor. Those who reflect more of the indicators of becoming a recurring donor will have a very high potential, while those who reflect less of the indicators will have a lower potential. The idea is we want to give you the widest possible range of opportunities when it comes to prospects, and then give you the opportunity to determine how narrow you want your targeted segment to be. For example, maybe you only want to target those very likely or likely to convert and store those lower categories a bit more to try to move them into the likely to convert categories. Another tool you can use to understand your recurring donor prospects is Fundraising KIT's likelihood to recur score. What KIT does is looks at your donor base and provides a ranking for how likely someone is to convert to a recurring donor. Those on the higher end are more likely, while those on the lower end are less likely to convert to a recurring donor. This can support you in building your outreach list, as you can rank your prospects list from low to high in terms of probability. When you combine likelihood to recur categories and rankings with additional predictions, insights, and filters in KIT, it allows you to take a wide opportunities list and make it as targeted as you'd like. For example, I could tell KIT I want to create a list for people who are very likely to convert to recurring donors and they're ready to donate. I'd also like to see how those donors rank amongst each other and the best way to reach out to them when I'm ready to solicit. Now let's dive in app and build a recurring donor prospect list. The first thing I want to show you in app is where you can find the likelihood to recur prediction. If you head to intelligence and stay under the predictions tab, if you scroll down, you'll see a module with likelihood to recur. This is going to show you a preview of contacts who fall into the very likely to recur category. So what we can actually do is take this prediction and use it as a filter to build our list. So we'll head to contacts. You can either build your list within the contacts tab and then save it as a segment, or you can jump to segments right away and create a new segment here. So let's say we call this our recurring donor appeal. So I'll go ahead and press next, and now we choose our filters. So the first thing I want to do is look for our likelihood to recur filter. So I'll go to contacts and I will scroll down, and here we are, likelihood to recur. So I'll go ahead and click on that, and then I can choose. Do I want people who are very likely, somewhat likely to convert, unlikely to convert? So here we're seeing that we can really choose how wide we want to go with our opportunities. So let's say I only want to target people who are very likely. I also want to make sure that these people are ready to donate. So I'm going to use another one of KIT's predictions, which is donor readiness. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll through here. And here we are, donor readiness. Okay, so I'll go ahead and click on that. Again, we're deciding how wide we want to be with our opportunities list. So let's say I only want people who are either ready or they show some potential. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and press save, and we just created our segment. Let's see how many contacts. Okay, so we have 1,500 some contacts. That's a pretty big list. Now there's some other things we can think about, right? Remember the likelihood to recur score? Maybe I want to kind of see where these people fall within that range. So I'm going to click on my columns, and I'm going to say, I'm going to get rid of some of these columns that maybe won't be so helpful for us. And I'm going to add our likelihood to recur score. I'm going to go ahead and press save. All right, so now you can see that score popping up here, and I can see there's quite a range there. I can sort it by clicking on these arrows. So I can see we have 90, 80, so on and so forth. So let's say 1,500 contacts is too much. There's a few other things that we can do. I could go to my filters and I could say, all right, well, since we have a lot of people, maybe I only want to look at people who are ready. And I'll go ahead and press filter. And that narrows it down to 500. And maybe for the likelihood to recur, maybe I only want to aim for people between 70 and 100% to narrow this down even further. Okay, so in that case, rather than doing likelihood to recur is very likely, I could instead use likelihood to recur score. So I'm going to get rid of this. And I'm going to say is between, is greater than or equal to 70, less than or equal to 100. I'll go ahead and press filter, and now we're down to 400. So in this particular account, there's a lot of people here that have potential, and maybe I do want to reach out to those 465 people. Again, I could continue to filter this down. I could look at things like best way to reach out. I can see there's a difference between mail, phone, email, so maybe that's something I want to consider in my list. In either case, once you're ready, you can go ahead and press export here. And this is where you can actually choose which columns that you want to export. So I might want to export things like full name, email, phone number, primary address, and then you can actually export some insights and predictions into your export as well. So maybe I want to look at things like the best way to reach out. Maybe I want to look at donor readiness. Some other things I might want to look at is that likelihood to recur category and that likelihood to recur score, because maybe I want to look at those scores in that spreadsheet and I want to sort of divide and conquer a bit amongst different members of my team depending on the score. So there's lots of things you can export here. You can look through and sort of customize that so that you have that information in your export. Then what you would do is you'd go ahead and click next, and then your export would be ready to download. One last thing I want to show you is how you can actually track the success of your recurring donor appeal. So under KPIs, if you go ahead and click Add KPIs here, you're going to see a list of all the KPIs available in KIT. Under fundraising, if you scroll a little bit further down to the bottom, you'll see that we have recurring gift growth rate as a KPI, rate of recurring gifts from total donations, and rate of recurring donors from total donors. So this could be interesting to add some of these KPIs as you run your appeal so you can see how successful you are in growing your recurring donors. All right, so that's how you build a recurring donor prospect list in KIT and track your success. See you next time.